So Jason Quick.
Yes.
Pseudo covers the Blazers, also writes different stories around the league, wrote a really good Adelman piece once Adelman became the permanent coach of the Nuggets. He has written a piece on Deandre Ayton, who the Blazers bought out and got nothing for, and so Deandre Ayton might be a Buck, he might be a Laker. We'll have to kind of wait and see on that. Really good piece if you haven't read it. Basically, the stuff we had heard about Ayton as a Blazer was good locker room guy, great leader, supportive. And the Blazers said, thanks, but no thanks on all that support again.
Yeah, we don't need you anymore.
So they have created $25 million is what they paid out. So they'll have $10 million in cap space. I think Richmond is right. I think even though they can afford the full mid-level, maybe they bring somebody in, but I don't know how likely that is. The roster spots, they don't have a ton of them. And so they might want to come in with a little roster flexibility.
They don't need any more guards. They definitely don't need any more centers. You could always use more wings. You could use a little shooting.
Yeah, it'd be great to get shooting or a wing. Quick writes that Billups has bold letters in his office that read, you can have bad plays, but not bad ways. He then goes in and basically says that a source with the team told him that Deandre Ayton was tardy to team flights and practices. He skipped rehab appointments. He would punch chairs in frustration from time to time when he'd come out, and he'd throw tantrums in the locker room when he was sidelined for poor effort. So all of what we were told Deandre Ayton was, at least according to this piece, is that he wasn't that great, and so part of the reason they were able to buy him out was, one, he wants to go to a winner, but two, they just didn't want to bring that back. I do think it's a bit of a mix of Mo. Wait, what am I trying to say?
Mo?
It's a bit of a mix of Mo.
Mo? Who's Mo?
Who's Mo?
I'm spanking around here.
Yeah, I think you are.
I think it's a mix of both.
Yes.
I think I meant to say both, not Mo. I watch a lot of Simpsons at my house. My kid loves that show.
Moth would be kind of cool.
Sorry, I was thinking about a scene with Mo in a recent episode where he's stuck in traffic. He goes, "Oh, I got nowhere to be and no one cares about me."
To be honest.
Underrated character in The Simpsons is Mo.
He is.
Anyways, I do think it's a mix of both, where he obviously didn't want to be here anymore. We had drafted two centers.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
But also, yeah, if you told me Deandre Ayton was being Deandre Ayton
There's a reason they drafted centers in back-to-back years.
And also Phoenix got to the finals with him and said, you can have him. Go ahead.
I read this yesterday, and I did chuckle. Like I don't think Deandre Ayton was terrible the entire time. I'm sure he was a good mentor from time to time for Donovan Clingan.
Was he? Or was he like, hey, Donovan, good job, man? I think we throw mentor out too loosely.
Sure. I don't think he was a total POS to everybody in the locker room, so maybe I'm giving him too much credit for that being like the baseline of approval of your teammates. When you have an organization that drafts a guy number 1 overall, he's the starting center for a team, and you get to an NBA Finals, and then was it a year later?
I think it was 2.
2 years later?
He got that deal from Indiana that Phoenix matched.
They didn't want to match it. His head coach hated him, wanted nothing to do with him, but they couldn't let a number 1 pick walk for nothing.
Right.
So they had to match the deal, and they could not trade him fast enough. What does that tell you? There's a bit of an issue there.
Well, there's a line in here.
I'm reading through this yesterday. I'm just chuckling of like, yeah, dude, like he seems like the kind of, even when he plays, he seems like the kind of guy who doesn't care half the time. And that's the frustrating part about him. There's a million of those guys in the NBA that you have all the potential in the world, but you don't have the work ethic and you don't have the drive night in and night out in order to achieve the ultimate success in the league. Not that he hasn't gotten paid, not that he hasn't been a good player. He has stretches in games where he can dominate. And then there's highlight packages of him standing there watching 4 different guys grab an offensive rebound and have putback chances as he's looking around with his hands up at this guy. Like,
that's why
he doesn't care. He's not invested, as consistent as he needs to be. And that shows off the court as well.
I thought it was a sneaky good point by a listener yesterday because we basically asked, like, the most you're going to remember about Deandre Ayton as a Blazer is that he didn't make a game because of an ice storm, right? And it was overwhelming, yes, was the results. But somebody brought up a good point, and I forgot about the press conference where he called himself Dominating.
He gave himself the nickname Dominating.
I think that needs to be in the running for what we'll remember most. Either the most ridiculous
introductory
nickname.
Press conference.
It's just, I'm a max player. I'm dominating.
That's right. No,
What?
you're a turnstile.
Your worst seasons in your career were here in Portland.
You just got bowed out of your deal, and you're going to go sign a mid-level exception.
Well, and I know that he has moved on, and he's going to go to a different team, and so we don't have to, like, hash out everything Deandre Ayton. I kept coming back yesterday to the point of everything they have, not everything, but some of what they've done this offseason, I don't mind getting rid of Ant and Deandre. Totally on board with it. Like, let's clear up the log jams and let's see what the young guys have. I'm on board with that. The Drew one, it's a little bit of a weird move.
Yeah.
You can like it
I
all
get it.
you want, or you can talk yourself into liking it, or you can say it's a sneaky good move all you want. We have no clue if that contract will be traded again.
Mm-hmm.
We all would have said that about DeAndre. We all would have said that about Ant. We would have gotten more for those things, and
Totally
one of
fair.
them got us nothing. So who knows where that's going? But Quick does put in a funny line, and I know how it's different, but a funny line of like, funny they don't want the 27-year-old to come back and be a mentor for young guys at his position, but they want the 35-year-old guard. And I think that kind of speaks to a little bit of his story of how they view things internally, to the point where he wrote that the Blazers, not everyone in the organization even wanted him here.
Yeah.
It was just like, hey, he's got maturity issues, personality things, but they needed to offload the Nurk contract. So you can absolutely see that trade and say this is partially why they did that move.
Well, and are you willing to pull off that move to get Kamara, who they clearly loved and coveted, and they wanted him in that trade, but you got to take on a bad piece of that deal, and the bad piece of that deal was Deandre Ayton.
So let me ask you, it's the first. It's, this stuff just started in the NBA.
Yes, although it feels like about 800 free agents signed yesterday.
Well, but do you think they're going to move Jerami?
I don't. I might end up being wrong on that. I had the
So our offseason's going to be Young Hansen
unless-
buying out DeAndre Ayton, acquiring 35-year-old Drew Holiday, and keeping Jerami Grant.
I mean, there might be some other fringe moves. You might go get somebody on a mid-level exception. I'd have to go look through all the available free agents.
Free agency class ain't great, buddy.
Even who's
It ain't
left.
great, buddy.
It's not like we can sign good free agents anyway.
Most of them are going anyway.
Yeah, I mean, go get like Seth Curry back. We could do that kind of signing. Go play 7 minutes a night and, hey, shoots 42% from three. It'd be great. Look, I'll reiterate. I said it last week about DeAndre Ayton. I didn't think there was a trade partner there. Financially, it didn't make sense for the Blazers to bring on a big salary in return for that deal. Who's taking on Jerami Grant's contract?
Well, that's
I have a really hard time with that, man. He had the worst year of his career last year. He was terrible from start to finish. He's got, I believe, 3 years left on his deal, making $32, $34, $36 million. So you're going to have to bring some money back in order to pull that trade off. Somebody's not trading you an expiring contract for Jerami Grant. There's no way in hell that's happening.
Yeah.
So are you willing to attach a first-round pick to get rid of Jerami Grant? Are you willing to do the Michael Porter Jr. trade? You're not getting a Cam Johnson in return, but are you willing to do that with a 2033 first-round pick?
People would suggest it's ridiculous to do it, and I don't think it's out of the realm of idea that you give one of your first to get out of the Jerami business.
Yeah, it's a horrible contract, and I
it's
want him
such a
off the
bad
team.
deal. I think that's the other part of this, too, is like when you see the other teams around the league operating. Denver had a bad contract. And now, I know he's a different player than Jerami Grant. I totally get it. But it's a dude with real injury history.
Yeah.
And it's a dude that's a little bit of a
head case.
A little bit of
He's
a
got
head
a little bit of
case.
DeAndre Ayton in him. Like, do you care? Are you here night in and night out? Like,
who is a little in and out. Like,
Yep.
They made a move, and I would argue they made an upgrade. Houston out here just having to give away almost nothing and just improving their roster. Oklahoma City's a beast. Minnesota, they've gotten to back-to-back conference finals. They able to sign Randall and keep Naz Reid. Like,
I think they'll miss Alexander Walker, but yeah.
Yeah, I do too. But I think you can get past that and, find a different replacement. My overall point is, are we really going to look at the offseason as good team building? Because right now they're uneffing their own choices.
Right now,
I think that's the thing that needs to be framed is I can like some of what they're doing.
That's what I'm applauding, but it's their own mistakes that they made in the first place that got them in this position.
I think the tough thing is I don't want to sound like I'm being just negative. I'm really in the middle of I do think that they have grossly mismanaged their assets. I don't know how you don't have a takeaway of that. But also, I like that they're opening things up for young guys to see what the young guys really are.
It's about damn time.
And say, hey, they're either our guys or they're not our guys. And I like a couple of their pieces. But it also needs to be said because it's true. They're uneffing their own choices. And part of uneffing their own choices is Jerami Grant.
Yes.
And I don't think that they'll be able to do it, but I hope that they can.
They had the ability to trade him last summer, reportedly, and they said no. They held out for more, and it aged like more milk being left out in August. Just a horrible decision on their part. I have quite enjoyed after spending basically the last 2 years arguing this, that these guys should be gone and let's start the youth movement and truly rebuild and not have this weird mix of we're playing vets and bringing rookies off the bench. People telling me that they shouldn't do that or they can't do that. Now that they're doing that, telling me that these are great moves. And I'm like, wait a minute, you just told me a year ago that you can't get rid of Ant. You're going to keep Deandre Ayton, and now they're just paying Deandre Ayton to go away, and they had to attach things to Anthony Simons. This is what happens when you hold on to your assets for too long and you overvalue your own supply. And it's exactly what the Blazers did the last couple of years. So I said this yesterday, and I'll reiterate it. Like, I totally get the questions about roster building. I totally understand the frustration from some in the fan base who looked at the second half sample size and thought, we're going to go from that and then take the next step. I just was never in that thought process.
Well, I don't think Joe's moves indicate he is also in that thought
and that's
process.
smart, because that's a ridiculous thing to lean into. And it's why I did chuckle a little bit at everybody getting a contract extension as if this team had just gone to the Western Conference Finals. Like, dude, you won 36 games, beating a lot of teams who didn't have their number one player in the lineup in the second half of the year. And it was an incredibly misleading defensive performance. It maybe translate and maybe it doesn't. But I'm also going to give them at least credit for finally doing what I've been screaming that they should do for 2 years, and that's letting the kid play and getting rid of some of these vets.
I think the tough thing is you can give credit and also be a little critical of why didn't you do that earlier when there was more value attached to it.
Why didn't you do it last year?
And I think that's a fair thing. The other thing I wonder, too, with their offseason, because it's July 1st and this stuff tends to kind of fly by quick.
It does.
And we've seen you go to ESPN's NBA free agency tracker.
I mean, just every boom, boom,
I mean,
boom,
in
boom,
2
boom,
days,
boom,
it's
boom,
just,
boom, boom.
yeah, it's a ton of names. And names of players that maybe don't make or break your whole season, but like guys that I would really like. I think, who's scoring on this team? You're going to need Drew Holiday to be really good offensively.
Chinese Jokic.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not going to watch video and act as if I'm qualified to legitimately tell you if the player is going to be good. I'm not.
How dare you?
I can give an opinion on it. I mean,
dare you?
I'm not qualified.
Questioning Chinese Jokic.
But you look at the roster, who's scoring? Because right now you are more poised to be a worse version of Orlando last year.
Yes, you are.
Than you are to be as good a version. At least they had some guys. But then injuries and in and out of lineups with Franz and Paolo, and
I feel like they at least have a number one in Banchero.
Right, and then they added some guy.
one.
They added a guy that can get some buckets in Bane. But like, I look at the roster and I go, who's going to score? Is it going to be Shaden?
Internally, if I were them, I would argue, well, Denny Avdia had a great second half. We think he's going to continue it. Shaden Sharp's going into his 4th year in the NBA.
It better be him.
Are you ready for a prime role? Like, now's your time. Go be
yeah.
a 20-point-per-game scorer. Scoot Henderson's going into his 3rd year in the NBA as a point guard. Like, now's the time. This isn't like you don't get an 8-year runway to figure this out. Now's the time. You got to go.
I just look at it and I say, Dirt, who is going to score on this team?
Yeah,
and that was part of the Ant argument, which is okay, but Ant's gone now.
Yes, he is.
And so you're going to have to rely on certain guys unless they can make another move, which I said it yesterday. I'll say it again. I will leave the door open for full opinion of the offseason until it's wrapped up and it's like, this is it. And maybe Jerami gets moved. Maybe he doesn't. If he doesn't, and this is largely your team, boy, you're not going to care as much about Tamani's defense if we're scoring 89 points a game.
Well, what if the opponent's scoring 87?
Orlando did that last year. How'd that work out for them?
They made the playoffs.
Well, they in the East.
Yeah, that's true.